I stood in the middle of Fiumicino Airport, staring at the screen in disbelief. My ticket was gone. The flight I was supposed to take back home had already departed. My husband, Daniel, had changed the booking without telling me. At first I panicked. Was it a mistake? Had I missed something? Then my phone buzzed. A message from him already in the air. "It's just a prank, babe. Can't wait to see your face when you realize." So funny. Funny. I was stranded alone in Italy with no warning, no plan, and no way home. The love of my life had abandoned me for a joke. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just whispered to myself, "All right, Daniel. Let's see who's laughing tomorrow." Because what came next, he never saw coming. My name is Alice, and I thought marriage meant trust. Daniel and I had been together for 5 years. We weren't perfect, but I believed we were solid. Italy was supposed to be our dream trip. Art in Florence, gondolas in Venice, wine under the Tuscan sun. We laughed, we kissed, we made memories. And then, at the end of it all, came the airport. I wheeled my suitcase up to the counter, handed over my passport, and the clerk frowned. She typed, checked, then shook her head. "I'm sorry, ma'am. There's no ticket under your name." I felt my chest tighten. There must be a mistake. My husband booked it. Daniel Miller. Her face softened. "That flight has already departed. Mr. Miller boarded yesterday." The words hit like a punch. Yesterday. He'd left me on purpose. When I finally got to Wi-Fi, my phone lit up with messages. "Daniel. You should have seen your face at the gate when you realized. Best prank ever." Daniel again. "Don't worry, you'll figure it out. You're smart. Love you, winking face." I couldn't breathe. Love. This was love. Leaving your wife stranded in a foreign country as a joke. I messaged him once. "You left me here." His reply came instantly. "Relax, babe. It's just a prank. You'll have a story to tell. Don't be so dramatic." I stared at the screen, my hands trembling. Dramatic. That was his favorite word when I got hurt, when I pointed out his selfishness. Dramatic. Like my pain was just theater for him. And yet, sitting alone in that empty terminal, watching families board flights together, I felt the crushing weight of being utterly alone. The first night in Rome without him was the hardest. I booked a small room near the train station, my suitcase shoved into a corner, the bed cold beside me. I stared at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our trip. Had I missed signs? The way he rolled his eyes when I got lost in a museum. The way he joked with waiters but ignored me. The way he loved control. Maybe the prank wasn't really a prank. Maybe it was the truth slipping out, that in his eyes I was disposable. I didn't reply to him again. Not that night. Not the next day. Not the whole week that followed. And the longer the silence stretched, the angrier his messages became. "Alice, stop ignoring me. It was a joke. Why aren't you laughing yet? Don't make this a big deal. You always overreact." I read them all, and said nothing, because something inside me had snapped. And when I finally replied a week later, it wasn't with tears. It was with fire. The first days without Daniel felt like waking up in someone else's life. Rome buzzed around me with mopeds, chatter, and music from cafes, but inside I felt hollow. I ignored every one of his texts. Each and "stop being dramatic" only carved deeper into me. I'd reread them at night, my chest aching, my mind whispering. He left you. Not by accident, on purpose. But something strange happened on the third day. I was standing at a crowded corner near the Colosseum, fumbling with a paper map, when a man's voice broke through the chaos. "You look lost." I glanced up. A tall man with dark hair and kind eyes smiled at me. He wore a messenger bag slung across his chest, a book peeking out. "I'm fine," I muttered, embarrassed. He chuckled softly. "That's what all tourists say before they end up in Naples by mistake." Despite myself, I laughed. His name was Marco, a local history teacher who offered to point me toward the metro. Somehow, that short walk turned into coffee at a small cafe tucked in an alley. We sat outside as he translated the menu for me. "You don't want this one," he teased, pointing at a dish. "It sounds nice in English, but it's actually tripe." I laughed again. Really laughed, for the first time since Daniel left. Marco leaned back, studying me. "So, where is your travel partner? Husband? Boyfriend?" The word husband caught in my throat. "He went back early." Marco raised an eyebrow. "Left you here alone." I stirred my cappuccino, eyes burning. "You could say that." Something flickered in his expression. Sympathy but not pity. "Then maybe Italy wanted you all to itself for a while." Over the next days, Marco kept appearing like a lifeline. He showed me places Daniel never bothered to take me. Quiet piazzas. A bakery that sold cannoli filled fresh each morning. A bookstore where the owner insisted I take a novel in English, free of charge. We talked about art, history, music. Things Daniel had always dismissed as boring. With Marco I felt seen. Not invisible. Not dramatic. One evening, as we walked by the Tiber, I confessed the truth. My husband thought it would be funny to change my flight and leave me behind. Marco stopped walking, his eyes widening. "He did what?" Heat rose in my face. "He called it a prank. He's been texting all week like it's some big joke." Marco's voice sharpened. "That's not a prank. That's cruelty." I swallowed hard, staring at the rippling river. Hearing it out loud made it feel worse, more real. But Marco didn't push. He just walked beside me in silence, his presence steady, grounding. Back in my hotel, I finally scrolled through Daniel's latest barrage of messages. "Babe, come on, it wasn't that bad. You're making me look stupid ignoring me like this." "Fine, whatever. Do what you want." And then, finally, "If you're done sulking, we can laugh about this when you're back." I stared at those words for a long time. When you're back. As if nothing had changed. As if I hadn't spent a week stranded while he smirked from across the ocean. But something had changed. Me. The next day, Marco invited me to dinner at his friend's restaurant. We ate pasta handmade that morning, drank wine that tasted like sunlight, and for the first time in years, I felt joy that wasn't tied to Daniel's approval. As Marco walked me back, he said quietly, "You deserve someone who doesn't laugh at your pain." His words echoed through me long after I lay in bed that night. And that's when I knew. Daniel's prank wasn't just a joke gone wrong. It was the mask slipping off. And I was done pretending I couldn't see what was underneath. For 7 days, I let Daniel's texts pile up like trash at the curb. I read every one, but I gave him nothing back. Silence. And the silence drove him mad. The 8th morning I woke up to 14 new messages. "Stop being childish. You'll come back home eventually. I've already told people the story, it was hilarious. They agree with me. You're embarrassing yourself ignoring me like this." Embarrassing myself. That was Daniel's favorite angle, always flipping the blame back to me. I stared at the screen, my chest buzzing with anger. And then I remembered Marco's words. "You deserve someone who doesn't laugh at your pain." That was the moment I decided my silence was over. That evening, I sat in a quiet piazza with my phone in one hand and an espresso in the other. Marco had gone inside to order dessert. My heart hammered as I typed the words. "Thanks for this, babe. Marco has been amazing." I hit send. For a long moment the screen stayed blank. Then it lit up like fireworks. Who the hell is Marco? Are you kidding me right now? This is how you repay me for a joke. By cheating on me. Answer me, Alice. Answer me. I didn't reply. I just sipped my espresso, calm for the first time in weeks. By the time Marco returned with tiramisu, my phone was vibrating non-stop. He raised an eyebrow. "Everything okay?" I smiled faintly. "Better than okay." We split dessert while Daniel's rage poured in. "You're pathetic. You think this is funny. You think you'll find someone better. Don't forget who pays the bills. Don't forget who you need." Each message was like peeling back a mask I'd ignored for too long. This wasn't about a prank. It was about control. About Daniel needing me to feel small so he could feel big. And now he was the one unraveling. The next day his tone shifted. Alice, come on. Don't do this. I love you. You know I didn't mean anything by it. Please just come home. We'll forget this ever happened. I laughed out loud in the middle of the cafe. Forget. He wanted to erase my loneliness, my humiliation, my tears like they were smudges on a chalkboard. Marco glanced at me, curious. What's funny? Nothing, I said. Just someone finally realizing I'm not their punchline anymore. By the fourth day after my reply, Daniel sent his longest message yet. So you're really going to throw away 5 years for some Italian guy you just met? You're selfish. You're dramatic. You've always been dramatic. I was trying to make memories and you twist it into betrayal. Do you know how crazy you sound? If you think Marco is going to put up with you long term, good luck. You'll come crawling back. I read it twice, then deleted it. Because the truth was, I wasn't crawling anywhere. For the first time I was standing tall. That night Marco walked me back to my hotel. Before we said goodbye he paused. Alice, can I ask something? He nodded. Are you ready to let go of him? The question hung heavy between us. For years I had clung to Daniel's love like a life raft, even when it was filled with holes. But here, with Marco's steady eyes on me, I realized I didn't need that raft anymore. Could swim. I smiled softly. I think I already have. When I returned to my room, Daniel had sent one last message. You'll regret this. But for once, I didn't believe him. Because the only regret I carried was all the years I let him convince me I was the problem. And now I was finally done. Daniel's last words, "You'll regret this," still sat in my phone like a threat, but they didn't scare me anymore. For the first time in years, his voice in my head was smaller, weaker. The next morning he tried a new angle. Alice, I can't sleep. I made a mistake. Please don't ruin our marriage over a prank. Everyone thinks you're overreacting. Don't embarrass yourself further. If you come home now, we can fix this. I'll even take you on another trip. Anywhere you want. My jaw clenched as I read each one. Trip. Money. Promises. Daniel thought love was a transaction. Buying forgiveness with plane tickets. But what he never understood was that I didn't want luxury. I wanted respect. That afternoon I met Marco at the bookstore he loved. He was browsing through history texts, but when he saw my face, he closed the book and asked, "More messages?" I nodded, holding up my phone. He read the lines, his brow furrowing. He doesn't apologize. Not really. He just bargains. As if your pain has a price. His words hit me hard. That was it, wasn't it? Daniel didn't see me as a partner. I was a possession. An accessory. Something he could leave behind for a laugh and then pick back up when it suited him. I set the phone down on the table. I don't think I can go back to him. Marco studied me quietly, then said, "So don't." Simple words. But they unlocked something inside me. The truth was, I had been afraid of starting over. Afraid of facing the world without the safety net of a husband, even one who treated me like nothing. But sitting there, surrounded by shelves of stories where heroines endured worse and still rose, I realized I wasn't afraid anymore. Could choose freedom. Daniel must have sensed the shift. By the end of the week, his messages turned frantic. "Alice, please answer. People are asking where you are. My mom wants to talk to you. Don't make her worry. We've been together too long to throw it all away. Just tell me where you are, I'll fly to you." Fly to me. After he left me stranded. The irony was almost laughable. I typed back one sentence, finally breaking my silence. "I'm exactly where you left me." And then I put the phone down and went to meet Marco for dinner. That night, over candlelight and plates of pasta, I told Marco everything. How Daniel used to belittle me, how he brushed off my concerns, how he always had to be the one in control. Marco listened without interrupting. His eyes steady on mine. When I finished, he leaned forward and said softly, "Alice, you weren't overreacting. You were surviving. You deserve more than survival. His words sank deep into me. For so long I had thought maybe Daniel was right. Maybe I was too dramatic, too sensitive, too needy. But no, he had built that lie, and I had lived under it. Not anymore. The next morning, Daniel's tone shifted again. This time it wasn't bargaining. It was panic. Are you with someone else? Is that what this is about? Don't you dare embarrass me like that. Don't make me a joke. Tell me Marco isn't real. I stared at the screen, a slow smile tugging at my lips. Marco was real. He was kindness, patience, laughter. He was everything Daniel wasn't. But more importantly, Marco wasn't the point. I was real. My strength, my voice, my freedom. Daniel's fear wasn't about losing me. It was about losing control. And for the first time I realized he already had. By the time the second week hit, Daniel's messages had shifted from anger to fear. Alice, you don't understand what you're doing. We've built a life together. You can't just walk away. I'll make it up to you. New house, new car, whatever you want. Just come home. The irony stung. I had once begged him for kindness, for partnership. And now he was bargaining with cars and houses, as if my silence could be bought like furniture. That night, Marco and I sat at a cafe near the Trevi fountain. The sound of rushing water filled the air. I showed him the latest barrage of texts. Marco studied them, then looked at me. Do you want to answer? I thought about it, the phone heavy in my hand. Not with what he wants to hear. The next morning, I did something I never thought I'd have the courage to do. Called our bank. Hello, this is Alice Miller, I said, my voice steady. I need to separate my accounts from my husband's. Effective immediately. The clerk confirmed my request, and within an hour, Daniel's financial leash on me was gone. The man who always reminded me, I pay the bills, I make the rules, had just lost the one weapon he thought I couldn't live without. When he noticed, his messages turned vicious. What the hell did you do? You think you can survive without me? You're nothing without me. Don't forget who gave you everything. I read each one with a calm I didn't recognize in myself. Because for once, I knew the truth. He hadn't given me everything. He had only ever taken. That evening, Marco invited me to a family dinner. His mother kissed me on both cheeks, his father poured me wine. His cousins teased him in rapid Italian that made him laugh and blush. I sat at that table, warmth surrounding me, and realized something profound. This was what partnership looked like. Respect. Oi. Daniel had left me in Italy as a joke. But Italy had given me a new vision of life. One where I wasn't a burden. One where my laughter wasn't dismissed as dramatic. When I got back to my hotel, Daniel's final message was waiting. If you walk away now, Alice, don't bother coming back. You'll regret it. I stared at it for a long moment. Then I typed back slowly, deliberately. Daniel, I don't regret losing you. I regret ever believing you loved me. I hit send. And then I blocked his number. For the first time in 5 years, the silence that followed didn't feel heavy. Felt like freedom. The morning after I blocked Daniel, Rome felt brighter. The sky seemed bluer, the sounds sharper. It wasn't the city that had changed. It was me. For the first time in years, I wasn't waking up to a phone full of commands, criticisms, or apologies that weren't apologies at all. The silence was mine. My peace. I decided to stay longer in Italy. Not for Marco, not even for revenge, though both had their place, but for me. I enrolled in a short Italian language course. I wandered through open-air markets, tasting cheeses I couldn't pronounce. I sketched ruins in a notebook I'd bought from a street vendor. Every day I grew lighter, freer. Marco was there, yes, sometimes walking me home, sometimes sharing coffee, sometimes just listening as I laughed about things I used to hide. But the real shift was inside me. I no longer felt like half of a marriage. Felt whole. Back in the States, though, Daniel's world was crumbling. I hadn't expected to hear much after blocking him, but mutual friends started reaching out. Hey Alice. Is it true Daniel left you stranded overseas? People are talking. He told the prank story at work, but no one thought it was funny. My brother said his boss chewed him out for bragging about abandoning you. Apparently, Daniel had spun his tale of the hilarious prank to coworkers, friends, even family. He expected laughter. Instead, he got disgust. What kind of man leaves his wife in a foreign country? One of his friends had posted on Facebook. The comments piled on brutal. His own prank had become his downfall. One evening I got an email, not from Daniel but from his employer's HR department. They had traced some of our shared financial accounts and wanted confirmation about recent travel expenses. Daniel had billed company credit cards for parts of our Italy trip, calling it a business retreat. And now they were investigating him. I sat at my hotel desk, staring at the screen, a slow smile spreading. I didn't have to lift a finger. His arrogance was enough to bury him. That night Marco noticed my grin. You look like someone who just won a secret battle. I laughed. Maybe I did. For so long Daniel's voice had been louder than mine. He had made me feel like I was nothing, that my hurt was funny, my tears dramatic. But now the world was seeing him clearly. Not as a clever prankster, but as the selfish man he was. And I didn't have to fight him for the last word. Life was doing it for me. The next week, I stood at the edge of the Amalfi Coast. Waves crashing below, sunlight spilling gold over the cliffs. I took a deep breath and whispered, "I'm free." I thought of Daniel, probably scrambling back home, his job on the line, his reputation shredded. I thought of how he laughed at leaving me here, how sure he was that I'd crawl back. And then I thought of the message I'd sent him. Marco has been amazing. He never knew the truth, that Marco wasn't about replacing him. Marco was about reminding me what respect looked like. Daniel had lost me the second he decided my pain was a joke. I smiled, pulling my journal from my bag and scribbling one final note for myself. Not a burden. Not dramatic. Not disposable. I am Alice. And I am enough. The waves crashed below, as if sealing the words. The day I finally flew back to the States, I didn't feel like the woman Daniel had abandoned at the airport. Felt different. Stronger. My suitcase was the same, but I carried myself like someone who had crossed an invisible bridge. At customs, the officer asked how long I had been away. I almost laughed. Long enough to find myself, I thought. When I stepped out into the arrivals hall, no one waited for me. No Daniel with a guilty grin, no family, no friends holding signs. And yet I didn't feel alone. Because I wasn't. Had myself. News traveled fast. By the time I returned, Daniel was already unraveling. His prank story had made the rounds at his company, and instead of applause, he was met with disgust. HR had opened an official investigation into his misuse of company cards during our Italy trip. I didn't gloat. I didn't need to. Life was handing him consequences I never could. One mutual friend called me, whispering like it was a scandal. "Alice, he's miserable. He says you ruined his life." I smiled softly. No, he ruined it himself. I just stopped carrying the pieces. The first night back in my apartment, I lit a candle and sat with my journal. The silence felt different now. It wasn't heavy. It was freedom. I wrote. He left me in Italy as a prank. But Italy gave me strength. He thought I'd crawl back. Instead, I walked forward. Daniel tried one last time to reach me through an email. "Alice, please. You've made your point. Let's just go back to normal. We're married. We can fix this." I stared at the screen for a long moment. Then I typed back. "There is no normal to go back to. Marriage doesn't survive abandonment. Goodbye, Daniel." And I hit send. It was the cleanest break I'd ever made in my life. The weeks that followed were a blur of rebuilding. Filed for divorce. I set up my own accounts, my own schedule, my own life. I laughed more. I slept deeper. And slowly, I realized that I wasn't just surviving without Daniel. I was thriving. Marco and I stayed in touch. Long calls, letters, little pictures of sunsets he'd send from Rome. But whether or not Marco remained in my life forever wasn't the point. The point was that Italy had reminded me what it felt like to be respected, to be seen, to be valued. Daniel had shown me who he really was. And Marco, Italy, life itself, had shown me who I really was. Not a burden. Not dramatic. Not disposable. Alice. Whole. Strong. Enough. On the anniversary of the day Daniel left me at the airport, I went to a little cafe near my home. I ordered an espresso, sat by the window, and whispered to myself, "You survived the worst, and you became your best." A group of young women at the next table were laughing about travel plans. One of them groaned, "I hope my boyfriend doesn't ditch me at the airport. He's the type to think it's funny." I turned, smiled gently, and said, "If he ever does, don't cry. Just remember, sometimes being left behind is the best gift you'll ever get." They laughed nervously, but I saw the curiosity in their eyes. Maybe they'd never forget that line. And maybe that was the point. If you've ever been abandoned, mocked, or made to feel small by someone who claimed to love you, hear this. You are not dramatic. You are not a burden. And you are not disposable. Sometimes betrayal feels like an ending. But it's really a beginning. Daniel thought leaving me in Italy was a prank. He thought it would break me. Instead, it set me free. Speech balloon, tell me in the comments. Have you ever had a moment where someone underestimated you and you proved them wrong? Thumbs up, like this video if you believe strength doesn't come from revenge, but from rising above. Bell, subscribe for more cinematic stories of betrayal, resilience, and triumph. Because sometimes the best revenge is simply living free.